Hey friends, welcome back to Acre Homestead. I've got all sorts of baskets and bowls. I think I'm gonna have to grab a few more because today is gonna be the first big harvest of 2022's garden. I've been out here, you've seen me out here, and we've been harvesting little harvests here and there, but today we're gonna do a massive one and I'm pretty excited about it. So the first thing we're gonna do is actually harvest some of this garlic that just grows wild in my yard. This is elephant garlic that I harvest every year. There is a big patch here. I should have harvested it a long time ago, but we're gonna go ahead and get to it today. There's a patch here, and then one over here. This dead looking thing right here is garlic, and we're also gonna get to this too after that. I need to go grab a shovel before we can get to harvesting. Now I have my big patch of garlic here that we planted out together, but this elephant garlic, what happens is the previous owners of this property planted this, I have no idea when, and every year I've harvested it and I leave some of the harvest in the ground so that it plants itself for me the previous year. So the life cycle of this garlic is there's 3 different components in here. There are these little cloves, and these are the seed. I don't know what technically the name of them are, but I'm going to keep those in the ground. Those take 1 year to then turn into this. And then if you plant this big clove, that clove will turn into an elephant garlic, which, like the full size, they're about this big, and we'll harvest those later this year together when we harvest the garlic that I planted out. See how here you can see a really good example. There's this baby seed. This next year is going to turn into this, and the year after it's going to turn into a softball size head of garlic. So these I keep in the ground, and those are what are going to perpetuate themselves. You can see them all over. I could take these and plant them all over the property and they would continue to grow into different garlic cloves throughout the property, but I'm just going to leave those here because I have garlic, elephant garlic, all over my property now, and this is going to be for the next owner, so I want to make sure I leave some so that the next person can enjoy it. I didn't plant this and I've been enjoying it from the previous owner, so I want the next person to be able to enjoy a fun garlic harvest with no effort in the actual planting, just the fun part of the cultivating. I am going to take those large single cloves of elephant garlic and we are going to cure them, which is just a fancy word for dry them out. And then in the fall we will plant those single cloves and we will harvest a very, very large elephant garlic head. And when we harvest our garlic harvest that I have in the raised beds, I can show you exactly what I mean by a very large head of elephant garlic. Elephant garlic is in the leek family. It's not actually a garlic, it's a leek, and it just happens to have a really big head that looks like garlic, and it does have a garlic flavor. It is a lot more mild than traditional garlic. And if you buy the pre-chopped garlic in the refrigerated section in water in grocery stores, that is actually elephant garlic, not regular garlic. These big 4 that I just harvested are 3rd-year garlics because there are more than 1 clove in each one of these heads. There's 4 to 5 cloves. They're not as big as the ones we're going to harvest later, but this is perfect. This one, I know I harvested it a little too late because you can see, let's see, right here, where the cloves are starting to split. What happens if you harvest garlic too late is those cloves start to split because each one of those cloves wants to grow into a new head for next year. And you really want to harvest garlic when there's 3 dead leaves, and most of these have way more than 3 dead leaves. But you know, when you get out here, I'm not worried about this. I'm not going to worry about growing this for next year. We're going to preserve this up right away and eat it. The reason you don't want those garlic cloves to be splitting from the head is because for long-term storage they're not going to last as long, but we're going to preserve this up and I'm not worried about that one bit. Like I said, it is all over the property. Now here's an example of some that I'm not going to harvest at all because they're just too immature, and I would let these go until next year and harvest them. But the next owners, I will tell them what's going on right here so they know what's going on. These plants that are all tall and kind of starting to die back are all those elephant garlics that grew out of those little bitty cloves, and these aren't going to be anything at all. So I'm going to let these die back right where they are in the ground. I could dig them up and replant them, but I'm just going to let them do their thing. I can though take, well, I might have to cut that off, these garlic scapes off them. These are the flowering head of the garlic, and I'm going to preserve these up, but the rest of the plant we'll just let go till next year. But coming from that small garlic patch, we have a massive, massive oregano patch, and we're going to harvest some of this here. Oregano is a perennial, and it's going to come back year after year in my zone. I'm in zone 8B. I'm in Southwest Washington, but I don't have any oregano planted at the new house, so I'm going to harvest as much of this as I can to try to have enough for this year and next year, because it's going to take a long time before I can get oregano harvest to be this large. So we're going to go crazy, and we are going to take a lot of this oregano out of this patch today. The next herb I want to harvest is mint. Same thing with mint. Mint grows like a weed around here, but I'm going to work on harvesting it as much as I can this year because I don't know if I will have a big harvest next year of it. All this mint that I'm harvesting today will grow back, and we'll be able to do another harvest, probably 2 or 3 more before the end of the year. This is also oregano in here. This here is something I've always wanted to harvest. It's 100% a weed around here, but there are tons of medicinal uses of this. Last year, I did not get to it in time. I saw this grows along the freeways around here. It's a weed. Last year, I saw along the freeway, what gave me the idea to harvest this was a bunch of people harvesting it. What this is a weed, but it's called St. Johns Wort, which is super medicinal. You can actually buy St. Johns Wort in capsules and tablets and tinctures. What it does is it's supposed to be very, very, very good to help with anxiety, which is something I struggle with. So I'm not a doctor. Before you take anything, do your own research, ask your doctor, but I can link a couple resources on the benefits of St. Johns Wort down in the description box. And we're going to harvest this, dehydrate it, and we will eventually make some tinctures out of it. Anytime you harvest anything that you're not sure exactly what it is, you want to make sure you're really sure, because this plant looks awfully similar to this other plant that I have over here. And when I first glanced at this, I thought that this was St. Johns Wort as well, and it's not. What I did was I googled the leaves to look at the different leaves, and this plant right here is St. Johns Wort. And it has one single stem that comes up with these little branches that have little leaves coming off the branch, and they're kind of like these long skinny leaves like this, versus this plant, these leaves are really bushy and frilly, and it's just one big leaf that comes off the main stem, and they definitely look different when you look at the stem and the leaves of these two plants. So St. Johns Wort, some random weed. But the flowers of this other plant look very, very, very similar to the St. Johns Wort flowers. So that's just something that you definitely want to be very careful of, because I originally was going to harvest this too because I thought it was St. Johns Wort, and it is absolutely not. I'm going to let the bee get the pollen first. How I'm going to harvest this is I'm just going to take these scissors and I'm going to cut these flowers right into this jar. Some of these flowers are already done flowering, and when I was researching, they said that's okay. It is best to harvest this right when the flowers are totally in bloom, but that's okay, we didn't miss out. I did bring out a lid to put on some of the herbs and flowers we're going to be harvesting today. If I was not going to take care of these right away, I wouldn't want to put a lid on them because I would be afraid that they would go bad in there. But for safekeeping, I would be very disappointed if I spilled all of these very, very precious St. Johns Wort flowers. I have another little jar in here because we're going to go harvest another very, very special herb to me that I did not have to plant this year because it self-seeded itself, and I'm so proud of that. These are chamomile flowers for chamomile tea, and we have an abundance. The more you harvest, the more they'll grow. So I want to get in here and do a big harvest first. Bing, I see a big weed in here that's about to go to flower, so I'm going to get that. I don't know if this is a good idea, but this is what I do with my weeds. If I don't give it to my chickens, I put it on the ground and I let it die. You can see this is a graveyard of dead weeds in here. I think this area has become so stunning with our petunias. This is the first year I've ever grown petunias and I love them. Absolutely love them. So let's get to work. I'm going to do the same thing with the chamomile, that I did with the St. Johns Wort. I just take a pair of scissors and I put it right next to my bowl. And I either do that or I take my thumbnail. Actually, that's a lot faster. And let's do that. That's a whole lot faster. And I like to have a little cup or bowl right where I'm working so that I can collect all of them. You want to mostly get just the flower. It's okay if you get a little bit of the stem, but I do try to get my fingernail right up underneath that bud and pull with my fingernail like that. I found it works well if you take the plant in one hand and you hold it tight so you get all the flowers nice and close together. And then it's a lot easier to harvest quite a few of them at one time as opposed to doing one individual flower at a time. I get a bunch of them in my hand and then I can put them in my jar. We have 1 pint full of flowers and I didn't realize I should have brought a quart out here to fill. Let me show you what we still have to harvest. So there is probably another pint, if not a pint and a half in here to harvest, but I think I'm going to move on to the next thing just because I don't feel like running inside and getting another jar. So we're going to put a lid on that. We're going to set that there. The next thing we're going to harvest is a bunch of kale, but I want to get this stuff in the shade just so that it doesn't get wilty out here being in the sun. So I'm going to tuck this basket right underneath the fig tree so it can be in the shade and not get too wilty. I say all that I don't feel like running inside, but I have to run inside to get another bowl because we have already filled up all that we have brought out. I did bring another basket out here, but it is filled with seeds that after we get all this stuff harvested, I want to try to get some more seeds in the ground because a couple things are getting close to being done, like my lettuce. So I really need to get some more lettuce planted. I also want to get some more carrots planted. I got 2 more big bowls. I think I kind of want to maybe harvest a few potatoes today. Might be crazy early, but I kind of want to make a potato salad for this coming weekend. Today is Thursday, and I've kind of made my weekends dedicated to helping Josh at the new house. So if I can make some sides, might make my life a little bit easier. I do think before we go any farther though, we need to harvest the strawberries and have ourselves a little snack. I'm telling you, this green stalk for strawberries is perfect. If you guys want to grow strawberries my favorite way, I kind of want to get 2 more of these. I can link them down below. I've been out here harvesting strawberries every day. Very little bug damage. Just look at these. I've never grown strawberries like this. Look at the size of this strawberry plant. And here, no bug damage, nothing. Beautiful. The next thing we're gonna harvest is kale. We've been eating a lot of kale and cooking with it, but this is gonna be the first big harvest. It will keep growing. Oh, there's a weed right there. That. We have one here. You can just break them off too. You don't need scissors. But I find it'll be a little faster with scissors. I'll show you how we are going to preserve this. We have kale all over the garden. So we're going to go all over the garden and harvest a bunch of it. Kale is one of my favorite things to grow. It's so easy and it preserves so easily. All right, we have one more spot over here where we've got a ton of kale. I want to stop and show you these straw flowers. Listen to this. Here's a more like burgundy one, and we have a white one. So a couple of them are going to seed or flower like this, which means they can get bitter. So we do need to do a taste test to see if this plant and that plant taste any good, which is a little nerve-wracking because that's a lot of kale right here that could be chicken food. It's okay. Still very sweet. That could be really bitter if I left it go for another day. That was some dinosaur kale. So now I need to get my scissors, which I left over here. I want to show you the before. We're going to harvest, and then we'll see what the after looks like. I think I'm going to pull this whole plant up because it's done. Everything we harvest today, that's it for this plant. And this will go to the chickens. We generally eat all of our kale cooked, so I don't mind preserving it. We don't eat very much kale fresh. It's just not the way we tend to like it. So this is the best way for me, is just to grow a bunch of it, harvest it, put it away, and then we can eat it from a nice preserved state. There's our after, the aftermath. Our kale harvest and our chicken food. So I'm going to bring those over to the girls, and they'll be able to get any bugs that might be in these roots and eat the stalks and the leaves that I didn't get off. We'll just let the girls enjoy all of this. Chickens are a garden's best friend. Now that the girls have enjoyed their beautiful snack, they've already devoured it. I just sat here and watched them for a while. We get to harvest all the peas. A couple of them I just snacked on, and they got a little overripe, which is fine, but there's still plenty out here that are sweet as can be. I have different kinds of peas out here. I have sweet peas and snow peas. These are snow peas. Both snow peas and sweet peas are peas that you eat the pea that is inside the shell, and you eat the shell itself. I've told this story, but last year I am so new to gardening that I did not realize there was a difference between a shelling pea. A shelling pea is the type of pea where you only eat the green pea on the inside, and the shell you compost, or you can make pea soup out of it, but it's super fibrous and you don't really eat it. And last year I only grew shelling peas, and this year I'm only growing sweet peas. You get a lot more bang for your buck if you grow sweet peas because you can eat the shell and the pea, and they're really, really sweet, and they're probably my husband's and I's favorite early garden snack that comes out of the garden, and I will always have sweet peas and snow peas in my garden moving forward because they're just so delicious. When we do the harvest, when we do the preservation of all this stuff we are harvesting today, I'll show you my favorite way to cook them up. Not too bad for the third pea harvest of the year. So now we're going to harvest cauliflower. We harvested some cauliflower when we did our garden tour, and I thought that's all I planted, but I have, quite a few more in here. So we're going to harvest all these. They probably should have been harvested a couple days ago, but better today than tomorrow. You can see how I wrapped the leaves around them. The day I saw these, I put the leaves over them to help them from going green. And now we're gonna go ahead and harvest these beauties. So this is a pretty decent size cauliflower. Ideally, these little floret, the flower parts would be a little closer together. But cauliflower is a very difficult crop to grow, and I'm going to count this as a win for sure. Definitely, definitely, definitely a win. Cauliflower plants, the leaves are edible, but I'm going to give these to the chickens again because this is a great green for them to enjoy. Since they're not free ranging on the property right now, they're going to really, really enjoy having all of this nice, beautiful greens. I just pulled up an onion. I didn't realize I had an onion planted in the middle there, so we'll eat that tonight for dinner. Gonna get the weeds while I'm in here as well. Ideally, I would keep the roots in the garden. I would cut right here, but I don't have a knife out here that's sharp enough to cut through that, so I'm just gonna pull it today. But it's good compost to leave that in your dirt. Maybe these ones I'll just cut the leaves off and leave it, the root end in. Look what just caught my eye. This isn't our strawberry bed. We might have to harvest. Oh, see? This is the problem sometimes I have with growing strawberries in this bed, is the pests get to them. You know who's going to enjoy this? Oh. Nope, this one's for me. I'll share. Here we go. You don't want it? I'll share it. It's okay. Oh, chickens are vicious. She'll steal it from another chicken, but she wouldn't take it from me. They're gonna have fun chasing each other with that. This little pot was an experiment pot. I put some pink dandelions in here, and I'm going to go ahead and take those out. I saw them flower. They were really pretty, but we're done with them. I want to give my parsley some more room to grow. and my tomatoes. So we're gonna take these out, and I'm gonna go give these to the chickens as well. And now my parsley in here is gonna have a lot more room to grow and thrive. Let me go give this little bit to the chickens, and then I'll be back and we're gonna harvest this parsley. This pot definitely needs to be watered. I can tell because this parsley is a little bit droopy. So I got the hose out. I'm gonna harvest a bunch of this parsley. It will not hurt the plant to harvest this much as long as I leave the inside nice and intact. It'll grow back. I want to come out here and harvest this on the regular so that we can try to get enough to last us a year. I have a little bit left from last year, but if I don't harvest it and preserve it up this year, we will not have enough to get us through next year. Let's talk about growing things in pots for a second. The upside. You can put a pot anywhere. You can put it on a balcony. You can put it on a deck. You can have a pot on a driveway. But if you don't have irrigation to those pots, you have to water them. In my garden, none of my pots have irrigation to them. If we were going to be here for long term, Josh would hook up irrigation to them. But right now they're not. And some things I have killed already this year because they don't have irrigation, and I'll show you. These borage do not really like being in pots. I've killed the borage that I have in pots. This, I think this is called Status, is doing really well. Most of my stuff is doing really, really well in pots. My pansies and my fig tree look great. Look at these elderberry trees. They are going crazy. I cannot believe the growth on these. And we forgot to put this with our harvest. I'm gonna go put this with our harvest. But overall, I would say the things I have growing in pots are doing excellent. You just have to remember to water. Oh, another thing that doesn't like pots is, again, my borage. And this nasturtium plant has not made it. But last time we were in here, we did the garden tour, and I had all but given up on my turmeric. And my turmeric has sprouted in every single pot. Oh, except that one. No turmeric yet in that one. We have 3 garlic plants in pots, or 3 pots with garlic in it. I think it's time to go ahead and harvest these. And we'll harvest them into this bed so the extra dirt can just go right in this bed. I can already tell these ones are going to be really little. Oh yeah, that was a fail. Well, not total fail. We'll get, about a garlic clove out of those. I want the extra soil to go in this bed. Not the biggest harvest, but I'll take it. We'll get some garlic off those. These might be a decent size, actually. The soil's moist. I don't know where that moisture came from. All right, that's not bad. Not great, but not bad for growing in pots out of leftover garlic cloves. Since I'm out here standing right by all these weeds, I'm gonna go ahead and weed this right now. And that way, we'll just get a little bit of weeding done at a time, and it won't feel so overwhelming to try to do it all at one time. So just if I see weeds in one spot, we're just gonna take care of them. This is another spot where the weeds have exploded, and I thought I would just take a second to go ahead and pull these up. This is one of my pumpkin patches, and these weeds were really easy to pull up. That looks much better. Not perfect, but better. And that's what we're going for this year. I do not have the time this year to make everything perfect. Even if I had all the time, I probably still wouldn't have the time to make it perfect. But I do have the time to try to make it just a little bit better. So that's what we're going for this year. A little bit better, not perfect. I do have the sprinkler going, or the hose going, for the tomatoes and tomatillos. And one more thing that I want to get to. What a mess. You know what? I think I'm gonna get in here and try to clean this up just a little bit, and then we're gonna get to the fun thing that's back there. I'm pulling these weeds, but I don't have the energy to put the weeds in the yard debris bin or compost or give to the chickens, so I'm just dropping them right where I find them. This is not the perfect solution, but this is the solution I'm going with for now. I'm going to put some cardboard down here as a weed barrier, just to try to create a little bit of a barrier between these weeds that are coming up and my tomatillos and tomatoes. That thing doesn't want to come up. We'll just scoot this closer like that. We are going to call that a win. In an ideal world, I would take the time right now to cover this with cardboard. I do not have the physical energy to do that at the moment. You know, there's only so much time and energy we all have. For now, this is going to prevent more weeds. I now have a barrier between my tomatillos and those weeds that were encroaching, so I'm happy with that. When I have the energy, oh, there's a weed here I'm going to pull. We're just going to let that go there. Is harvest some of these raspberries. I don't think there's enough raspberries in here to make anything out of, but there's enough raspberries in here for me to have a little bit of a snack. But what I am in here mostly to harvest are these leaves of the raspberry plants. I have a whole video on harvesting raspberry leaves to make tea out of it, but all you do is pick the leaves, go inside, and I'll show you how to preserve them. What I'm going to do today is put them on the dehydrator, and this makes an excellent tea. You can buy raspberry leaf tea in the store, and it's fantastic. But if you have a few plants of raspberries, which I have a ton of them, one of the additional benefits you can get from them are the leaves. So you can try to maximize your harvest. That was my goal last year, and this year and every year is to try to maximize my harvest. And thinking about what parts of a plant do we normally not think of as being useful and harvestable, and harvesting those and finding a beautiful use for them. Raspberry leaf tea is fantastic. It has a light raspberry flavor. Usually what I do when I make tea is I make a yummy black tea and I put a bunch of raspberry leaves in it. So it's usually about a 50% black tea, 50% raspberry leaf tea, and it's so refreshing and delicious. I thought I brought enough bowls and things out here to collect my harvest, but I did not. I'm going to use this root bag for the leaves. That's what I should have been doing this whole time. I have this thing about 3/4 the way full. I think we're going to call it good. I'll probably do one more harvest this size later, but there's one more thing I want to get to, and that's this rhubarb. I want to get a good harvest off this. This is more rhubarb than Josh and I will probably be able to eat in 1 year. So I'm going to come up with a couple different ways to preserve it. Rhubarb takes a few years to establish. I am going to transplant a few of these plants because there's probably 10 or 12 plants in here to the new house, but it takes a few years for rhubarb to get established. So I'm going to try to see if I can get enough rhubarb here to get Josh and I through the next year or two. This is probably my, I think, third harvest off this, but I've been just using it. So this is going to be the first real preservation method or preservation mode. I'm going to remove the leaves out here so that I don't bring those inside. No need of bringing them inside and then bringing them outside. Rhubarb leaves are toxic. You definitely cannot eat them, but you can compost them. So I just compost them right in place. I should have known I would have needed my J. Morrell size bowl from the get-go. I didn't think the harvest today was going to be that big, so I didn't bring it out. But I am super excited and blessed that the harvest got so big that we needed this big bowl. This is a 30-quart bowl. It's huge. My mom got it for me for Christmas one year, and I thought, when am I ever going to need a bowl this big? This was before I had a garden, and I use this bowl all the time, and I absolutely love it. I can link it down below if you think you might need a 30-quart stainless steel bowl. I love it. Don't worry, all of this is going to be washed really, really well. So that's why I didn't really care that I threw it on the ground. It's not super time efficient to put it on the ground and then have to pick it back up again. I should have had this bowl from the beginning. Look at that. From what I understand from you all, from last year's harvest, is you never want to harvest everything. So I'm leaving probably 1/4 of the rhubarb in here, and it will grow back, and we'll probably get one more harvest. But look at that beauty. Look at that. Oh my goodness, what a blessing. I keep wanting to go inside and start preserving some of this stuff, but I keep thinking, stay out here, focus. You're already hot and sweaty. We might as well push through. I want to get a few seeds in the ground. Now, once I harvest something like this, it forces me then to have to deal with it. I will deal with it, whether I'm tired or not. But I won't always necessarily put more seeds in the ground. So I'm going to force myself to put more seeds in the ground now, because I know that I will absolutely have to deal with this stuff that I already harvested, or it's going to go bad and it's going to go to waste, and I won't let that happen. I shouldn't say I never would let that happen. I mean, I have let things go bad, unfortunately, after harvest, but I have tomorrow where I can deal with all this stuff. So if I just take the time to focus on this stuff now while I'm out here, then tomorrow I can go ahead and focus on the preservation side. Because they're kind of two different parts of your brain anyway, harvest and planting and preservation. I'm gonna put the rhubarb in the shade with our peas and cauliflower and parsley and our raspberry leaves, and I'm gonna let this hang out here while we go do some planting. Before we're gonna do any planting though, we need to make a spot right here to plant. My green beans are doing the best in these grow bags. They are jamming, and I want to get some more green beans in here for succession planting. So we need to harvest all of these radishes to make room. Look at that! It's ginormous! These are breakfast French radishes. And I'm gonna take the tops off, and I'm gonna give the tops to the chickens because they love them. They are edible. You can eat these tops, but they're not my favorite. So I'll let the chickens enjoy them. I have never grown radishes this big before. They are massive, massive. This is the first time I've ever grown breakfast French, and I hear a lot of good things about them from other people who grow them online. And I have to say, these might be my radishes of choice from now on. I think we're getting just as much chicken food today as we are food for Josh and I, which is awesome. Look at what I just found in our strawberry bed when I was dropping off those goodies for the chickens. Now we've created this little area right here where we can plant some green beans. I have some jade green beans, and what I'm going to do is nothing super special here. I'm going to just plunk them about every 3 to 4 inches apart. I could have, to make the germination rate probably more successful, what I could have done was soak them overnight in water. I've definitely done that before, but I didn't know I was doing this till just right now. So we're just gonna go with it, and I'll need to make sure that they're watered. These are irrigated. Josh put some irrigation over here because I had tomatoes over here last year. So they will get some water every morning. I'll make sure to put that little sprinkler head right here, this little red thing, right over it. I have some more beans available to me, so I'm gonna go find somewhere else to plant these along with this package. I think along the edge of this bed is as good a spot as any. So I'm gonna clean up the weeds real quick. There are a few weeds in here. I've not been having the best luck with green beans. The bunnies keep eating them. They've been doing the best in those root bags. So I want to just keep planting them just to make sure we get a harvest this year. I'm just going to do a little trench here, here, and here. Now that I have my 3 trenches, I'm going to take my beans and just put them in here. Not perfect, just better that they're in the ground than they're in the seed packet. They're definitely not going to grow in a seed packet, but they have a chance to grow if they're in the ground. I do want about an inch of soil over them. I just had this thought, because you see this harvest, you might think that everything goes well out here. No, it doesn't. I planted melons along this row, not one came up. Like I said, half of my green beans have been demolished. My black beans back there keep getting mowed down by rabbits. I don't know if I'm going to get a black bean harvest this year. I planted probably 200 carrots along the edge of this bed. Not one came up. But if I keep the seed in the seed packet, if I keep that plant start at the store, not in my backyard, not in the ground, I'm going to have a 0 harvest. If I don't take the effort to put something in the ground where I have the opportunity to possibly grow it. But if I just keep planting and keep planting and keep trying, maybe we'll get something. And that's my goal. Maybe we'll get something. I say that I try to plant enough for the birds, for the slugs, for the bunnies, and hopefully Josh and I get something. But we know we will be guaranteed we will get nothing, absolutely nothing, if we don't put anything in the ground. I just had that thought, and I thought, you know what? That's an encouragement to me, because I do get discouraged out here all the time thinking it's a fail. I'm looking over here in my squash bed. I planted over 25 seeds in that bed and 4 came up. And the 4 that came up are looking really well, but now that bed is covered in weeds and it's not perfect. But if I hadn't planted any of those seeds, none of them would have come up because I didn't plant them in the first place. So anyway, I just had that thought that just plant something, because then you might get a harvest, but if you plant nothing, you most definitely will not get a harvest. So going along with that thought, we are going to try to grow some carrots again. So far my carrots this year have not been doing super great. I've had better luck in past years when I do a summer / wanting a fall harvest of carrots, so we're going to do that. My lettuce is almost all done. It's almost all bolted, so I thought, you know what, let's go ahead and get some more lettuce in the ground. I really enjoyed the romaine the best, so that's what this packet is, green romaine. And now we're going to go ahead and get it watered in. And I also, going along with the same thing, my zucchinis have not sprouted. I have yellow squash that's growing, and I thought, let's go ahead and just see if we can get some zucchini in the ground and see if we can get a harvest this year. This is our haul. Pretty excited about it. Let's start down here. We have our parsley, we have cauliflower, and a bunch of peas at the bottom of this big bowl. A huge bag of raspberry leaves. So much rhubarb. I went ahead and collected the eggs. I have about just this many eggs out there as well, but that was as many that fit in there. Our garlic and our radishes are sitting up underneath there. We also have a huge bowl. This is a huge bowl of kale and greens. Our chamomile, St. Johns Wort chamomile here as well. So we got 2. So we got about a quart of chamomile, a ton of oregano, and a ton of mint. Not too shabby for the first large harvest of the year. And this, I am believing, is just going to be the first of many, many, many. Like I've said before, I always get this stress and anxiety that nothing's going to come out of the garden. And look how abundant. And we have already harvested a ton of peas already. We've harvested a ton of garlic scapes. Oh, there are a couple garlic scapes in here as well that I found. We've harvested a ton of lettuce, tons of kale already. And so this is just, oh, and we've already harvested a ton of rhubarb. So this is just super exciting. I went ahead and I trellised up all of the tomatoes, and I did prune some of the extra leaves off the tomatoes. I'm not pruning suckers this year. I may have broke 1 or 2 suckers. That's okay. But if you want to know more about that, that's in the garden tour video, the last garden tour video. But for now, I'm excited to bring this inside. I'm not going to preserve everything tonight. There are a few things I'm going to get started tonight, like the dehydrator and freeze dryer, because I want those running while I sleep. Josh, come look at this. Look at what I harvested.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting, isn't it?
It's beautiful.
What?
Good.
I know a mole went up the irrigation thing. Josh just got in the garden and he realized that a mole has dug up one of his irrigation things, which is pretty irritating to him. I just want to say thank you so much for being in the garden with me. I greatly appreciate it. If you enjoyed this, I greatly appreciate a thumbs up. If you want to watch more of my videos, I will put those right there. Like I said, I'm going to go inside and start preserving this. Just some of it, just what has to get in the freeze dryer and dehydrator tonight so it can go overnight. But some of the things that I need to wash and prep and put up in different ways, I'm going to do that tomorrow because I don't have the energy to get it all done tonight, which is okay. I hope your gardens are being abundant and fruitful, and I can't wait to see you next time. Bye, friend.